The cold wind howled outside Winterfell's great hall. A raven had come, its wings heavy with the weight of the south. The message it brought was clear. King Robert Baratheon was asking, begging even for his old friend Ned Stark to come to King's Landing, to be Hand of the King, to stand beside him, to guide him, to protect him. Ned held the scroll in one hand, but his eyes were on the fire. His face was stone. Catelyn sat beside him, watching, worried. Maester Luwin stood quietly, waiting for Lord Stark's word. But the silence was heavy, like something sacred was dying inside the room. "I won't go," Ned finally said. The words came like iron, unshaken. "I won't leave the North," Catelyn blinked. "He's your oldest friend, and the South is full of vipers. I won't bring my daughters there. I won't be dragged into their lies, their power games." Ned's voice was steady, but inside, a storm was rising. Later, Jon Snow came to say goodbye. He was heading to the Wall. Ned clasped his shoulder. "We'll speak more when you return," Ned said, though a part of him feared they'd never meet again. Maester Luwin tried one last time. "My lord, refusing the king may be seen as insult. It could bring danger to the north." But Ned just looked out toward the snowy courtyard. "Let danger come. I will not leave Winterfell. My duty is here." The next morning, Ned wrote a letter to Robert. It was respectful. He thanked him for the offer, said he was honored, but he declined. He wrote that his place was in the north, and he hoped Robert would understand. The raven flew with the letter, across forests, rivers, and fields. It reached the capital in 3 days, and when Lord Peter Baelish, Littlefinger, read Ned's reply, he smiled, a thin, bitter smile. "He's smarter than I thought," he whispered, "or maybe just more stubborn." He brought the message to Queen Cersei. Her lips curled with disgust. "So, the wolf stays in his den. That won't protect him forever." Meanwhile, far in the north, Ned walked with Robb in the courtyard. "The South is no place for us," Ned said. "Honor is a dangerous thing. There. More dangerous than a sword." Robb nodded, but in his eyes there was a flicker of pride, and something more, something restless. That night Catelyn couldn't sleep. She kept waking from strange dreams. In them, a shadow moved across Winterfell. Fire burned in the distance, and Ned was nowhere to be found. But dreams were just dreams, until a raven came again. This one was from the Eyrie, from her sister Lisa. She wrote, "They killed Jon Arryn, the Lannisters. Don't trust them. Don't go south. Stay in the north. Stay alive." Ned sat still as he read it, and then he said softly, but with a voice full of warning, "We must prepare. War may find us, even if we don't seek it." And far away, in the Red Keep, Littlefinger turned to Varys and whispered, "Let's move to Plan B." Queen Cersei stared at the raven's message again. Her hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but fury. "He refused the king. That man dares insult the crown," she hissed. Robert Baratheon, the king himself, was drunk again, sitting in his chamber reading Ned's letter over and over. "Ned always was stubborn, but I thought he'd come. I thought he'd understand." He poured more wine, ignoring Cersei's scowl. "Maybe he's right to stay away from all this filth." But Cersei didn't want peace. She wanted control. She turned to her brother Jaime. "If the wolf won't come to the lion, maybe the lion should go to the wolf." Meanwhile, in the shadows of the Red Keep, Littlefinger met with Varys. 2 men who smiled often but trusted no one. "He's not playing the game," Varys whispered. "No," Littlefinger replied, rubbing his chin. "That makes him dangerous." They began planning quietly, adjusting pieces on their invisible board. If Ned wouldn't walk into their trap, they'd build a different one closer to home. Back in Winterfell, Catelyn paced the room, reading Lisa's warning again and again. "They killed Jon Arryn," she murmured, "and now they'll come for you." Ned tried to stay calm, but his eyes had changed. Sharper, colder. "I need answers, but I won't leave Winterfell to find them." Arya, listening from behind the door, felt something twist inside her. She hated secrets, and she hated fear. Later that night she found Jon packing for the wall. He gave her a wooden sword. "You'll need it, little sister," he said with a weak smile. "The world's not safe anymore, even here." Down in the courtyard, Robb trained harder than ever. He struck with his sword like he was fighting ghosts. Ned watched him, proud but worried. "This isn't just about swords, son," he said. "It's about hearts and minds and who you trust." That evening, another raven arrived. This, one from a northern scout. It had seen strange men near the borders, riders bearing the Lannister sigil, too far north for comfort. Ned ordered patrols doubled. His voice carried through the hall. "If they're coming, we meet them on our land. Not with fear, but with honor." Maester Luwin came to him privately. "You may need to call your banners, my lord." Ned didn't answer right away. He looked to the fire again, the same fire he had stared into the day Robert's message arrived. Then he turned and said, "Begin writing the ravens. Slowly, quietly. We call the north." But as the maester left, a servant stepped out of the shadows. He wasn't truly a servant. He was something else. And that night, a second raven flew, not to Ned, but away from Winterfell, straight to King's Landing. Winterfell, though strong in stone, now felt tense in spirit. Inside its great walls, the Stark family was slowly starting to fracture. Robb sat across from his father, jaw clenched. "So we're just going to wait, while Lannisters ride across the Riverlands?" Ned's voice was calm but cold. "We're going to be smart. War isn't won with pride, Robb. It's won with timing. But your honor kept you from the south, and now their war might come here," Robb snapped. He didn't mean to sound harsh, but the anger was real, boiling under his skin. Ned stood silent for a moment. "You think I chose safety? I chose this because the South destroys good men. I saw it with your uncle, with Jon Arryn. I won't be next, and I won't leave my children behind for a city full of lies." Up in the halls, Arya sat near her room's window, clutching the wooden sword Jon had given her. "Are we safe, Septa?" she whispered. The old woman didn't answer for a long time. Finally, she said, "No place is truly safe anymore, not even Winterfell." Downstairs, Maester Luwin entered with fresh news. "My lord, Lady Catelyn has departed for the Eyrie. She wants the truth from her sister's lips." Ned nodded. "She needs to know what happened to Jon Arryn, but tell no one of her journey." Later that night, Bran called out in his sleep, screaming. Catelyn wasn't there to calm him. Robb rushed in. Bran sat up, sweating, eyes wide. "The raven again," he whispered, but this time it had 3 eyes. "It showed me things, Robb. Fire, snow, and a shadow over Father's head." Robb looked around the dark room, but there was no shadow, only Bran's frightened breathing. "Rest, little brother," he said, though his own heart beat faster. Days passed. News arrived slowly but grew more troubling. A raven from Jon Snow reached Winterfell from the wall. "Strange things stir beyond the wall," Jon wrote. "Dead men walk, creatures we only knew from stories. And the cold, it's worse than anything I've ever known." Ned read the letter twice, then again. He passed it to Maester Luwin in silence. Luwin muttered, "Tales from frightened men." Ned shook his head. "No, not from Jon. If he says it, We must listen." While the North prepared quietly, tensions flared in the South. But even Winterfell could not stay hidden from what was coming. One cold morning, the direwolf Shaggy Dog was found growling over something in the woods near the castle. They pulled it away and found another direwolf. This one dead, not wounded. Its throat had been sliced clean, but not with a blade, not by man. "Who would do this?" Robb asked. Ned knelt by the body. "Not who," he said slowly. "What?" And in the trees above, two birds flew off together, one north, one south. Far away from Winterfell in the halls of Casterly Rock, Tywin Lannister sat in silence. A message lay before him, stamped with the Stark sigil. "He won't come," Jaime said with a crooked smile. "The wolf stays in his den." Tywin's voice was cold. "Then we rattle the den. We start with the Riverlands." He turned to a tall, cruel man. "Sir Gregor Clegane, the Mountain. Burn villages, slaughter livestock, leave no survivors. Let the Starks feel heat in their cold land." Meanwhile, at Winterfell, a raven landed with a letter. It wasn't addressed to Ned, it was for Sansa. She opened it secretly in her chambers. A sweet message, words of beauty, lies dressed as comfort, from Queen Cersei herself. "Come south, dear child. Your future is here. Your prince waits. You belong with him, not in the snow." Sansa read it 3 times, her heart twisting. She missed the warm court, the silks, the songs, and Joffrey's smile, or what she remembered of it. Downstairs, Catelyn had reached the Eyrie at last, but what she found was not peace. Her sister Lisa sat on her cold throne, her son in her lap, eyes wide and wild. "Jon Arryn was poisoned," Lisa whispered, "by the Lannisters. I told you in the letter." "But why? Why now?" Catelyn asked. Lisa's smile faded. "Because Jon knew the truth. He was asking questions. About the king's children. About their father." Catelyn's eyes narrowed. "Then Robert is in danger too. And Ned must know." But Lisa only clutched her son tighter. "Let them fight each other. We stay here, safe. The Eyrie cannot fall." Catelyn felt cold. "This isn't safety. This is madness." Back in Winterfell, Ned sat in the great hall summoning his bannermen quietly. Lords of the North began sending riders. The old names were stirring. Umber, Karstark, Manderly. Quiet calls, silent steps. Arya watched from the shadows. She saw men sharpening blades, horses being prepped. Something big was coming. And in a private chamber, Maester Luwin approached Ned. "My lord," he said softly, "you are lighting a fire you may not control." Ned gave a tired smile. "Then we pray the fire burns only our enemies." But just as things settled, Robb and Theon rode in fast, dragging a man behind them. A Lannister scout. "We caught him." "Past the last river," Robb said. "He had maps, and this." He handed Ned a folded letter. It was sealed in gold. Ned opened it slowly. Tywin's words were simple. "The next move is yours." The scout was still alive. Ned ordered him placed in chains, not executed. "The game has begun," he said. And somewhere in the capital, Cersei Lannister looked out her window and whispered, "Let the wolf howl. He will still bleed." The captive Lannister scout sat in chains in Winterfell's coldest cell. He had refused to speak, but now Ned Stark stood before him, silent and watchful. The man tried to smirk, but it faded quickly. "I won't tell you anything." The scout said. "You already have," Ned replied. He pulled out the map found on him. "These aren't roads for travel. They're routes for war." The man's face twitched. Ned leaned closer. "Tell your lord this. If he threatens the north, again I will answer." He walked out, leaving the man in darkness. Later, a raven flew from Winterfell carrying Ned's warning to King's Landing. The letter was direct. "Control your lions, or I will." At the same time, Arya was training again in the shadows. Her steps had become quieter, her strikes sharper. She missed Syrio, the dancing master she never got to train with in King's Landing. But here, she practiced alone, moving like wind in the corridors. Robb watched her once and asked, "What are you training for, little sister?" She didn't. "You, look up, for when someone tries to take our home." Meanwhile, in the sky, snow began to fall harder. A rider returned from the Riverlands, his face pale and voice shaking. "My lord," he told Ned, "they've started. The Lannisters are burning villages, near the Trident. They're moving closer." Ned's jaw tightened. "Then the time for patience has ended." He summoned the lords. "Ready your men. We march for the neck." But Maester Luwin arrived with grim news. "Lady Catelyn has left the Eyrie. Her sister's grown strange, too frightened to act. She returns to Winterfell soon." Ned nodded. "Then she will see we've already begun." That same night, a stable hand found a scroll tied to a hawk's leg. It was from Jon Snow, and it was urgent. "A man died yesterday at the wall. We burned him, but he stood again. His eyes were blue. The cold is alive." Robb read the letter beside his father. "He's not lying," he said. "No," Ned replied, "he's not." They both stared at the flames. But even as the North made plans, the South struck harder. A village near the border burned. Ashes, smoke, families lost, and one of the survivors, an old man, shaking, bloody, was brought to Winterfell. "They wore lion cloaks," he whispered, "but they had no honor. They laughed as they burned my grandchildren." Ned's eyes darkened. He turned to Robb. "Send riders," he said. "Let the banners fly. We are no longer asking. We are answering." That night, a raven landed in King's Landing. Robert Baratheon, already drowning in wine and guilt, never saw it. He was found the next morning, dead. Rumors said a wild boar had gored him. Others whispered the truth. He was poisoned. King Robert Baratheon, the man who once shook thrones with his hammer, now lay cold on his bed. His eyes were shut, his lips pale. "A boar," they said. "A hunting. Wound gone bad, but whispers moved faster than wind in King's Landing." "Too clean," Varys said quietly to himself. "Too fast." Queen Cersei wept in public. In private, she smiled. Her son, Joffrey, was crowned before the blood on Robert's sheets had dried. A new raven flew north. Cersei's seal shone bright. Joffrey Baratheon now rules. All lords must bend the knee. Ned Stark read the letter. He said nothing at first. Then he turned to Maester Luwin. "Burn it," he ordered. "The boy is no king." At the same time, in the shadows of the Red Keep, Varys wrote a second letter. Not to the north, but to Dragonstone. To Lord Stannis Baratheon. "The throne is yours by right. The queen lies. The prince is not the king's true son." Renly Baratheon, Robert's youngest brother, had already fled the capital. He carried gold, swords, and a secret plan. In the Reach, he would build his own claim. The South was cracking. Back in Winterfell, ravens continued to come. Robb stood with Ned by the war table, their fingers tracing the map. "The Lannisters press east," Robb said. "If we move now, we can stop them near the Twins." "No," Ned replied. "We wait for word from the Tullys. We don't go to war alone." Then another horn sounded at the gates. A man from the wall arrived, dressed in black and shaking from cold. He fell to his knees before Ned. "Your brother sent me," he whispered. "Jon Snow." "What news?" Ned asked, eyes narrowing. "The dead rise, Lord Stark. I saw it with my own eyes. We burned one, but not fast enough. It stood again. eyes like ice, no soul behind them. Ned helped the man to his feet. His voice was low. "You are safe now. Rest." But later that night, alone with Robb, he said, "If the dead walk, then our true enemy is not in the south." Robb stared into the fire. "Then what do we do?" "We fight 2 wars," Ned answered. "One with swords, one with truth." But their enemies didn't wait. That night a man entered Winterfell disguised as a merchant. He made it to the Lord's Tower with a knife in his boot. He found Ned alone. But he never made the kill. Ned turned just in time, drawing his sword. The man lunged, and Robb burst in, blade raised. They killed the assassin, quickly, but it changed everything. "They're not just planning anymore," Robb said, breathing hard. "They're trying to kill you." Ned cleaned his blade slowly. Then, "We strike first," he said. Outside, the wind howled louder than ever, and in the north, behind the wall, Jon Snow wrote his last message. "They are coming, and they do not stop." Snow fell harder now, like even the skies knew something terrible was creeping closer. In the halls of Winterfell, Sansa Stark held a second letter in her hand. Her fingers trembled as she read it over again. It was from the Queen. Cersei's. Words were sweet like honey, but they stung like poison. "Your father is leading your house to war. Your prince waits for you. Come back to us. Be safe. Be loved." Sansa didn't show it to Arya. She didn't show it to Robb. She kept it close, hidden in her pillow. That night Bran's screams woke the entire tower again. He had seen more in his dreams. Now he mumbled strange words, half awake. "There's fire under the snow, and shadows. Shadows on wolves." Maester Luwin gave him milk of the poppy, but Bran's eyes stayed wide. Robb began to lose patience. He's just a boy, sick from his fall. But Arya stepped forward. He's seen more truth in his sleep than most men with their eyes open. Later, while Arya practiced her quiet steps in the training yard, she found a folded paper near Sansa's bed. Curiosity burned stronger than manners. She read it, then stormed out. She found Robb and pushed the letter into his hands. She's writing to the Queen. Still, after everything, Robb stared at the letter, betrayal rising like heat in his chest. He stormed into the great hall, letter in hand, and shouted, "Why?" Sansa, pale and shaking, said nothing at first. "I love him," she whispered at last. "Joffrey, he's kind. He'll protect us." Robb's voice cracked. "He cut off our father's men's heads in the square. He's a monster." Sansa ran from the room in tears. Ned entered moments later, silent and steady. He read the letter carefully but didn't raise his voice. "She's still a child," he said. "A child poisoned by sweet lies." But he posted guards near the Raven lofts that night. No more letters left Winterfell. Elsewhere, Catelyn returned. Her face was tired, her cloak heavy with dust. She had changed. Her eyes carried something sharper, grief mixed with fury. "She's mad," she said about her sister. "Lisa has lost her mind. But she's right about one thing. They killed Jon Arryn. He asked questions and they silenced him." Ned listened, then nodded. No more. Waiting, no more second warnings. He gave the order that night, arrest all Lannister spies in the north, quietly but fully. The wolves were no longer sleeping. By morning, 5 men had been taken. One had poison in his boot. Another carried a blade carved thin like paper. One whispered a name before dying. Littlefinger. But the most painful blow came when another raven reached them. Tully lands are under attack. River Run is burning. Catelyn's hands shook. Her father, her brother, her home. "They want war," Robb said. "Then we'll give it to them." Ned placed a hand on his son's shoulder. "Prepare the riders. he said. "Winterfell rides for the river." Before the sun rose, Winterfell's gates opened wide. Horns blew once, then twice. The northern banners were raised high, gray direwolves dancing in the wind. The Starks were no longer silent. They were riding out. Robb stood tall on his horse, armored and grim. Behind him, the bannermen of House Umber, Karstark, Mormont, and Glover gathered, steel in hand and fire in heart. "Today we ride for River Run," Robb declared. "But if we must ride farther, then we ride to end this war." Ned watched his youngest son speak, pride heavy in his chest. But he still felt the cost. He knew, once swords were drawn, there was no clean way back. Inside the castle, Ned met with Sansa one last time before leaving. She stood still, eyes red from crying. "I only wanted to be safe," she whispered. "You will be," Ned said softly. "But not in the arms of liars." He kissed her forehead. "You'll stay with Arya and Bran. You're stronger than you know." Outside, a raven landed with more grim news. Joffrey had been crowned. Cersei was ruling behind him. And a letter, signed in the name of the king, demanded Ned bend the knee, or be declared a traitor. Ned burned that letter in the Great Hall fire. As the army departed, Catelyn rode beside Ned. "I saw the flames at River Run from the hills," she said. "They want to wipe out my family." "They won't," Ned replied. "Not while I draw breath." They rode for days, passing frozen rivers and burned-out villages. Along the way, they heard whispers. The Lannisters were moving east. River Run was under siege. Edmure Tully, Catelyn's brother, was holding it, but barely. They also heard word of Renly raising banners in the Reach, and Stannis, quiet on Dragonstone, but no doubt planning something of his own. The kingdoms were breaking. Far to the south, Queen Cersei sat on the Iron Throne, listening to lies and shaping them into power. She had the crown. She had the gold. But she didn't have the North. And far beyond them all, at the edge of the world, Jon Snow stood on the icy wall, facing something not made of lies or politics, but death. He had seen it again. Another walker. This one armored in frost, taller than any man. And it raised 5 dead crows with one lift of its hand. Jon wrote fast, hands shaking, "The wall will not hold forever. You must prepare, or none of us will survive." Back near the twins, Robb received word from his outriders. A victory. They had struck a Lannister camp and won. Tyrion Lannister, the imp, had been captured. Robb handed the dwarf's dagger to Ned. "He's your prisoner now." Ned said nothing, only looked to the stars. But he knew. This was more than luck. This was the beginning. And in the dark, as the North pushed forward, Cersei whispered to Jaime, "Let them come. We'll break every last wolf." Winterfell had never felt so empty. Sansa paced alone in the highest room of the castle, her hands clenched around a quill. She had written another letter, to King's Landing. This time, it was more desperate than dreamy. "Please take me back. I was wrong. I belong with you, with Joffrey." She handed it to a guard when no one was looking. A raven took off within the hour, gliding through the cold sky, carrying her heart away. But someone was watching. Arya had followed the bird. She rushed to Maester Luwin. "She sent another letter," Arya snapped. "She's still betraying us." Maester Luwin sighed. "She's lost, but not beyond hope." Arya didn't agree. She felt the cut of betrayal too deep. Meanwhile, far south, Robb's army had taken a hill near River Run. Tyrion Lannister, now bound in chains, sat in a tent with Ned Stark. "I didn't order Jon Arryn's death," Tyrion said, "and I didn't poison your king." Ned's face was hard. "But you know who did." Tyrion raised his eyebrows. "Maybe. Maybe not, but I do know your precious South is eating itself, and you've just stepped into the feast." Outside, Robb entered, carrying another captured message. It was from Cersei, written to one of her spies. It promised gold for Sansa's safety, if she could be returned to King's Landing. "She's trading us," Robb whispered, jaw locked. Ned took the message quietly. His heart broke again, not just for Sansa, but for what this war was doing. To them all. That night, Littlefinger arrived, like a shadow stepping through firelight. How he reached them, none could say. He approached Ned with a sly grin. "I offer you a deal," he said. "Help me take down Cersei. Let's remove the boy king and rule from the shadows." Ned didn't answer. Littlefinger leaned closer. "Give me Sansa in return. She'll be well cared for, I promise." The look Ned gave him could freeze oceans. "You will never speak of my daughter again." Littlefinger only smiled. "Then you'll lose more than your crown." By dawn, he was gone. Like smoke. Then came a hard choice. Bran had been taken. Raiders loyal to the Lannisters had slipped behind lines. They left no note. Only a small piece of his cloak, blood-stained, nailed to a tree. Robb fell to his knees. "They took my brother." Ned stood over him, torn between fury and despair. "We march for King's Landing now." "But Riverrun. Still." "Let the Tullys hold Riverrun," Ned said. "If we wait, we lose more than land. We lose our blood." That night, horns blew again. The North would march south, not just to fight, but to claim justice. And behind them, Winterfell watched, its walls colder than ever. As they rode, Robb asked, "What if we lose?" Ned didn't look back. "We don't," he said, "because if we do, there will be no North left to return to." The gates of King's Landing shook before the North's arrival. No one expected Ned Stark to come to them. Not with an army. Not this fast. But he had come, and he brought the fury of the North with him. The small folk whispered in the alleys. "The wolves are here." The Red Keep stood tense. Cersei stood atop the battlements, watching the dust clouds grow on the horizon. Joffrey sat on the Iron Throne, legs swinging like a child who hadn't yet tasted fear. "They won't break through," he said, proud. But Cersei knew better. Inside the city, the gold cloaks began to shift. Some remembered Ned Stark's name. Others remembered Robert's words before he died. "Ned is my brother. Trust him." And just like that, loyalty cracked in the capital. Ned didn't storm the city. He walked in through the front gate as the guards opened it quietly in the night. When Cersei woke, it was already too late. The North had taken the Red Keep without a single war horn. Robb stood beside the throne as Joffrey screamed at him. "I am the king. You will die for this." Robb said nothing, but the look in his eyes, cold, tired, and sharp, was enough to silence the boy. Cersei was dragged into the throne room, her hands bound. Ned looked down at her, remembering Jon Arryn, remembering the lies, the blood, the children twisted by power. "You killed a king," he said. "You turned his line into puppets." Cersei raised her chin. "I protected my family. Would you not do the same?" Ned stared at her for a long time. "Yes, I would, but not like this." He handed the crown to Stannis Baratheon, who had arrived just as the dust cleared. "You are the king by law," Ned said. Stannis took it, but he said nothing. He only nodded. Cold, rigid, dangerous in a new way. Then Ned turned back to the throne room. "I don't want power," he said. "I want peace, and I want my daughter." Sansa appeared then. She looked older somehow, her eyes no longer full of stories, but sadness. She walked slowly to her father, unsure if she was welcome. Ned opened his arms. She ran into them, weeping, and while the North reclaimed its own, A final raven arrived. From Jon Snow. The wall is failing. The dead are moving south. The cold is alive, and it is coming. Ned read it aloud in the great hall of the Red Keep. All who listened fell silent. He looked south, where the game had burned cities and broken families. Then he looked north, where something worse than any crown or war now stirred, and he spoke only one sentence, soft but final. Winter is not coming. It is here.